Blessed to be with you. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Boy, some big news there from Maggie O'Mara. A few things we'll break down. Remember, KIDO Talk Radio is your home for the Boise Music Festival. Ticket information and the addition of Color Me Bad. You remember them. I don't know how old those guys are. Tone Loc, got to be in his 50s. Tone Loc actually has the unofficial theme song of the Kevin Miller Show, Funky Cold Medina, a song that they would never, ever allow to be recorded and played today on radio or Spotify or Pandora or anything else because it's so politically incorrect. You remember for many, many years we would play the hook, and if you didn't, ain't no plans with a man. This is the 80s, and I'm down with the ladies. I'm sure people will find that offensive, but great acts, a wonderful day. More information on KIDOTalkRadio.com. A few things that we are discussing, as Glenn Beck alluded to recently. You know, what caused this fire at Notre Dame? And since we're in the speculation business, now some people will say we're in the news business, and that is to a degree, but we are in the speculation business. Do 850-year-old churches just automatically catch fire? For how many years this church has not caught fire, and yet all of a sudden it catches fire, and you have these relics, thankfully, that have been saved, and now everybody vowing to spend millions to bring back the Notre Dame Cathedral. On the other hand, you can't bring back something that has burned or been destroyed. And if it was a fire caused by somebody, can you think of a more horrific week to do it than Holy Week? Let's go to the phones and hear what you have to say. We're rolling already. On the right side, Terry, State College, Pennsylvania. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, sir. Kevin, there's a little bit of history about the cathedral, Notre Dame Cathedral, that a lot of people don't know, including many of the Masons. That specific structure, in fact, I'm going to digress here a second. When you build with brick or you build with stone, you use an enormous amount of mortar. When you build with stone, as a matter of fact, you use 5 times the amount of mortar that you do with stone. It's just an unforgiving job for the tenders that, mix and carry the mud for everybody. Do you know that in the Notre Dame Cathedral, would you like to take a guess how much mortar was used to build such a structure? Just take a wild guess.
You got me.
Not one single trowel. Not one. That is the quality of that stonemanship there. Those gargoyles that hang out over are all pinned in. Their own weight is balanced. Every single stone there laid has no mortar between it whatsoever. That is the marvel of that specific cathedral. And to lay at rest, perhaps not, there was roof work taking place at the time of the fire. What that means, I don't know. Maybe it's government propaganda. I don't know. But, Kevin, we did lose something here. The molecular structure of that stone will change now. It will become more brittle. Will the cathedral continue to stand over time? I can't answer that. But it is a magnificent piece of work. Vanessa has been inside of it. She has seen it. I personally would love to have just walked around, totally investigated the whole thing as a retired stonemason. That would have been beyond remarkable. But I just thought everybody could appreciate that's why it was one of the great features that people would rush to see in France.
What do you make of Glenn Beck's statement?
Which was?
If somebody did it, if somebody that was an Islamist did it, we'll never know.
I don't think we'll ever know, and I think, at least according to my information here that I have, there were not all the churches that Barb had claimed were vandalized in France. The churches over a longer period of time, there were that number vandalized across all of Europe. It wasn't just specifically in France, even though there was a higher percentage of them vandalized in France. And, we know that there's some breed of radical Islamists hates Christianity, and they'll do anything they can to destroy it. And if it's vandalism, it's probably the youth or the teens. It's probably a vandalism caused by those that are not maybe quite as radicalized. I don't know. It's a scary thought.
Well, what concerns me is the lack of media attention when there's an attack on a church.
Well, let's remember, the Pope just signed a major agreement with Islam. And I think that the world's moving towards a one world religion. That's my opinion. I think we're going to try to achieve that with a false peace. That's my opinion. Yeah, and that in many respects just correlates with what the Bible says. So could this be? I don't know. I don't know, Kevin. I'm not some kind of a prophet that can say, hey, this, that, and the other. But there's a lot of appearances here that are very biblical and certainly would make sense based upon the Bible. So we'll see. I mean, how would we know who did it? Again, there was roof work taking place. I don't know what kind of roof work. I don't know any more than that. So it's going to be a mystery until we solve it. And if they do solve it, it turns out to be a radical group of any kind. Will we ever find out about it? I think only if it fits the official narrative will we ever find out about it. But, Kevin, we both know times are changing. And you're doing a great job, by the way. I love it.
Well, we can't wait to see you for Miller's Mission, May 20th through the 25th. We've got a very special one coming up that I need to get off my derriere and get rolling. So it's going to be a good one.
Well, those are always a great time, and to see the public come out what they do. And I just encourage everybody to continue to come out, and more specifically with the lack of 5013C tax write-off, even more we need people to come out and give from the bottoms of their hearts. And we just look forward to that because the true givers, they just roll in, and it's just a remarkable thing to experience and to meet the people that have these needs and to just look into their faces and just see how much they appreciate that somebody would a stranger would put their hand out and say, here, let me give you a hand up. This is pretty remarkable.
Well, and that is a crisis. That is a crisis when we're talking about the 501c3s where it's not tax deductible anymore, the donations.
It is a crisis because a lot of that's counted into a lot of corporate budgets every year.
Yep.
And now what do they do with it? Oh, boy. Good job, Kevin. Look forward to seeing you.
Thank you, Terry. Take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Coming up this Saturday, if you're looking for something to do, Ontario is going to have the Eastern Oregon Hemp Fest, where apparently you can go and have a good time, and you can't smoke there, but you're going to have a lot of pro-marijuana people coming in and touting the joys of token up, if you will. It's what they call the 420 holiday. It's gone from a stoner's holiday to big business, with more states legalizing recreational pot. And April 20th, falling on a Saturday this year, cannabis retailers are prepping for huge sales for 2019. Of course, it still is against the law here in Idaho. It still is against the law to smoke pot recreationally, to sell pot, to grow pot throughout the country. Yes, it's against the federal laws. In fact, if you go to the Oregon coast, if you go to California and all these stoner paradises, the stoner sellers, they can't use banks because what they're doing is breaking federal law. Thank you, President Obama, for not enforcing the marijuana laws. And, of course, now we're going to have this big initiative in Idaho to put medical marijuana on the ballot. And you did hear, dovetailing into our little review and commentary on the legislature, that one of the big concerns about passing that initiative bill is to make it more difficult to get marijuana legalized on the ballot. Now, one thing that strikes me, and this would take some Churchillian-like leadership from our elected officials, both state representatives and state senators, if they would be willing to put it on the line. And let's face it, it's a part-time job at best. Now, it's great when you're an elected official, you get a desk, maybe you get an office, you get to feel important, and I know you don't do it for that. But if marijuana is passed, the legislature still has the nuclear option to wipe it out. Many conservatives thought that would happen with Medicaid expansion. Instead, they passed it, and now we'll be paying more and more taxes for Medicaid expansion. The legislature did use the nuclear option before when it came to term limits. Many years ago, term limits, it was an initiative, it was passed. The legislature didn't like it, so they blew it up. Medicaid expansion, not so much. We'll see what happens with marijuana. A Flow Hub prediction that the biggest 420 sellers this year will be edibles, pre-rolled joints, and dried smokable flowers. I don't know how that works. Dried smokable flowers. According to the people at Forbes, they say that pot as a business continues to battle for those bud bucks. Stores will have more and more competition, which will drive down prices for those looking to get high on a budget. By the way, it was in one of the issues. Remember how hemp was supposed to be this big money drug? Because the federal government has legalized hemp, unlike marijuana, you're going to have more and more farmers producing hemp, so that $50,000 per acre that was promised is now going to diminish because there is more hemp on the market. Another reason to take a look at slow rolling the idea of legalizing hemp in Idaho. But here we have this idea of marijuana being legalized not only in the select or rebellious states, but nationwide. Many of you disagree with me. Many of you say that, look, we need to have the dope. It's going to be a good time. And you're going to have, unfortunately, the news media in this state and in Oregon and other places covering this event, this 420 holiday. I don't know really the history of it, but I know every year on the state, we have people saying, oh, it's great. It's cannabis. We're going to go get some edibles. We're going to go, what is this? You smoke dried flowers? How? Dried smokable flowers. What will they think of next? That's one topic at 580-5436, 580-KIDO. And a story that is not getting covered a lot, these attacks on churches that we're seeing across Europe, that we're seeing across the country, and trying to figure out what happened at Notre Dame. Would love to hear from you next, 580-5436, 580-KIDO. You're listening to Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Looking forward to seeing Tone Loc at the Boise Music Festival. Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio. Going to be a great time. 10 years of the Boise Music Festival. Amazing. Taking your calls today about marijuana and this big Eastern Idaho or Eastern Oregon Hemp Fest coming. Of course, we have our own Hemp Fest and the upcoming marijuana wars. Let's go to the phones here on KIDO Talk Radio. We're going to go to Aaron in Middleton with Kevin Miller. Good morning, Aaron.
Hi, yeah, good morning.
Hey, Aaron, go ahead, please.
Yeah, so I just wanted to make a quick comment on the medical marijuana. I'm a provider, and I work with a pediatric group here on the border of Idaho and Oregon. And I think it's amazing to see how much people are willing to go ahead and push medical marijuana, especially when they don't understand the impact that it's having on their teenagers, especially with the rise of depression and anxiety, and how it literally is playing a part in the gateway to going to different drugs and, misusing different illicit substances.
Well, Aaron, can you give us some more insight into that?
So for every well child check that we do what's called a depression and anxiety screening with all of our youth 12 and up. And so it's interesting to see that with this depression and anxiety screening, we also do a screening called, it's a modified CAGE questionnaire, which basically asks teenagers if they've had any recent drug, alcohol, or marijuana use. And it's really interesting to see how much association there is between higher scores of depression and anxiety with higher scores of marijuana or alcohol misuse. And so I just want to put it out there to the parents that, even though you feel that it may be a right to smoke this marijuana, it does have a really high impact both socially in the community, but as well as personally, because these youth are not able to cope with their depression and anxiety when they're pretty much high every other day because they can't meet their counseling appointments, they can't make their schools, their grades. I mean, it is having a huge impact on their lifestyles, whether people think it's a right or not.
Do you believe they're going to try and make a run here?
I do. I've seen the negative benefits, but unfortunately there's too much, I think, power behind the movement to have it push forward, whether I feel that it's not okay or not.
Aaron, thank you for the call. You have a great day, sir.
You too.
Dean in Kuna with Kevin Miller on KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Dean.
Good morning. I'd just like to say about the fire at Notre Dame that in traditional Catholics, they have these concepts. It's called Bright Week and Holy Week. And Holy Week is the week before Easter. And during that week, they do the royal hours, which is like they do a service every hour of the day. So it's like an all-day church is going on. And none of the workers were working. None of the construction people were on site because of Bright Week. The last construction work was done on Holy Week. There was no construction because the last workers stopped on Friday. And from that Saturday on, there's like 24-hour services at Notre Dame. So there's no way the fire was started by construction workers because there was no construction workers on site. It was arson.
You believe it was arson?
Yeah, because look into Holy Week and Bright Week. At the cathedrals everywhere in the world, they're doing 24-hour services for a whole week before Easter. And there was no construction workers. They let the construction workers off on Friday, and they weren't going to come back for 2 weeks.
Well, and churches don't automatically catch themselves on fire.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying it was arson. There was no one up in the attic or in the towers doing work. There's massive crowds there. And the media even admits that there was a liturgy going on when the fire started. And they're not going to have construction work during the liturgy.
No, you're right about
they're just
that.
Not going to do that in the cathedral.
Yeah, you're right. Well, Dean, I hope you're wrong, but you're very convincing here. Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Bye.
Bye-bye. Bruce and Nampa, hang on. First, traffic and weather together. And I'm Kevin Miller. Let's get back to the phones. Talking about marijuana and this big event coming up on Saturday in Oregon. Bruce and Nampa, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Yes, good morning, Kevin. I'm very bothered by your negativity against cannabis so much. I've been listening to your program a little bit in the mornings, and I'm a man. I'm in my 40s. I do not have children. I use cannabis to deal with pain. I'm a successful electrician, electrical contractor. I've done well for myself. I get up. I make appointments. I do what I need to do. I satisfy my customers. I meet my responsibilities. I run a heck of a tight ship, and it is a very good alternative to alcohol. And you keep saying not in Idaho, not in Idaho. Dude, it's already here, man. It's been here forever. Where do you think these kids are getting it? You want the drugs, go to the kids. And I mean the LSD, the meth, and the heavy stuff. It's already here, man. What do you have to say about that?
Well, you want to bring your drugs around me, I'll call the cops and have them arrested.
Okay. Fair enough. But your kids shouldn't dictate somebody else's personal freedoms and liberties either. The people want what the people want, regardless. And at the end of the day, not one person has died from marijuana use. Okay, the implications of it being illegal have created quite a hassle on things, but not one person has overdosed from marijuana. And you want to talk about the 420 and why it's so important to these pot smokers. A quick Google search will give you the breakdown on how it all started, and you could inform the people instead of misinforming them. These are just my thoughts and my ideas on it.
Well, look, and I love your thoughts, even though I don't agree with them. But using your logic, if the people want prostitution and gambling, should they have prostitution and gambling?
People should be able to do whatever they want to do and suffer the consequences for them accordingly.
Right. But you have laws in place that prevent people from doing that.
But they're doing it anyway. These laws don't work. That's what I'm just saying.
Well, you got a lot of people in the jails that would probably disagree with you.
Build more jail. Let's do this. Let's do that. Let's feed the penal system. You guys don't have a solution for the problem.
No, my solution is just say no.
Well, just say no. Like I said, I use it for pain management. I use it to help me. I use it to help be more creative. You don't know anything about it. You talk like you're a freaking expert on it.
And you're currently breaking the law, sir. You're a criminal.
Maybe I go over and use it in Oregon every day.
Maybe so. Duly noted.
You don't.
Do
know
you?
that.
Do you?
The Fifth Amendment, dude.
Fair
I have
enough.
Constitutional rights, but at the end of the
You
day,
do.
there's
You
the
do.
whole thing, sir. What I'm saying is, it is a very safe alternative, and the medical implications from this plant. Maybe you should do a little bit of your homework. Maybe you should do a little research, and then you could use your radio program to maybe inform the public or take them to an educational website. And instead of this fear, it's all fear. Oh my gosh, not in my town. Dude, it's already been here. It's been here for decades. You can't keep it out of here.
Oh, yes, we can. Yes, we can.
Out of here. No, you can't.
Yes,
Not
we
without
can.
denying people rights, liberties,
No,
and freedom.
we'll throw them in the jail is
That's
what
called
we'll
the
do.
police state. You read George Orwell's 1984, that's what you want, dude. How about
No.
let the people be free and decide on their own?
Yeah, let's just make them all lawbreakers and get rid of the laws is what you're saying.
Oh, lawbreakers. Dude, we all break laws every
I don't break the
day,
law.
Whether we,
I don't break the law.
Okay. Mr. Kevin Miller's freaking perfect. Okay. I bet if we followed you around that we would find out that you do.
You'd find me in the Albertsons eating a bucket of chicken. That's about the extent of the law breaking I do, and
Yeah,
that's
well,
legal.
that bucket of greasy GMO chicken, dude, is probably more hazardous for you than a freaking cannabis. And if you
Well,
would do some research on the plant,
I'm
you
free-
may know and realize
I'm
that.
free to make that
I see
choice because
how-
it's legal to eat chicken, not legal to smoke pot.
Yeah, well, is being obese legal?
Yes.
Of course it is. It's very unhealthy, too.
What's wrong with being a
Look at all-
fatty?
Yeah, look at all the sick, unhealthy freaking people that we have. All I'm saying
Well,
is,
wait a minute. That's
that-
my choice. You just talked about a free state. I
Yes, it is
I
your
choose to
choice.
be
That's fine.
I choose to be a
that's
fatty.
fine. That is
But
fine.
you don't
That is
have the
your
right
choice.
to be a dope smoker
Why don't I?
because it's against the law.
Where? In Idaho, it's not everywhere.
Oh, it's against federal law.
Oh, it is?
Yes.
Doesn't matter. The states have the right to choose, man.
Not anymore.
I can tell you're not a constitutionalist.
Oh,
then.
yes, I am. I'm a Hamiltonian.
No, you're not. Not when you want frickin' the Fed needs to get out and let the states frickin' run their states the way they fit.
The feds can't. The states can't run themselves. That's why we need the Fed to do it for us.
Oh, okay. We need Big Brother in taking care of it. All right. You're a constitutionalist? Yeah, right, dude. Okay. All I'm saying is...
Now,
this,
I thought you were pretty
sure.
mellow, but usually people that smoke the dope, Bruce, are mellow. You're pretty fired up.
Yeah, why do you
Maybe
think I
you
smoke,
should
man?
have a toke.
I only smoke it when I go to Oregon. I don't want to break the law.
I've got to run, sir, but please call back and give it to me anytime. Thank you.
Thanks, Kevin.
Thank you. Thank you, Bruce. Great call. We'll get your reaction next. Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio. Good morning, Maggie. And quickly to Tanya J. Powers joining us with the latest on a trend involving restaurants passing on or putting on the healthcare surcharges on dinners. So you get a check and you say, hey, this is for my MRI.
No, not quite like that. It may be for your server's MRI. That's a possibility. But what's being done is it's already happening in a few cities. It's being done in Chicago and San Francisco and Minneapolis. It's not widespread. It's a few restaurants here and there. But there's a couple more in Texas, in Austin, who have now joined the list. And what they're doing, there's a couple places. One of them is called Foreign and Domestic, and the other one's called Hoover's Cooking. And the first one has added an optional 3% surcharge to each bill. The owners of the place started providing health insurance for their employees at the first of the year, and this is an optional surcharge where they decided that either they could raise all the menu items by $1 or they could do this optional surcharge, and it would actually come out a little cheaper with the surcharge. And it is optional. They say that you don't have to pay it if you don't want to. But that since January 1st when they did this, that fewer than 5 people have said to take it off. They don't want to pay it.
Wow.
Hoover's, on the other hand, has a mandatory $1 thing they're calling a community value contribution. And both these places, by the way, explain this. The Hoover's actually explains this in a good bit of detail. There's a note that comes from the owner that is provided with your menu that explains what they're doing and why they're doing this, and that you're helping provide paid time off and sick leave and that kind of thing for the employees. That kind of thing. There's, like I said, it's mandatory. The other one is not.
Well, we'll see how if this grows nationwide. Tanya J. Powers, we appreciate you. Thank you, ma'am.
Sure, anytime.
All right, let's get back to your phone calls. 580-5436, 580-KIDO, talking the upcoming marijuana wars here in the state of Idaho. Zach in Boise, thank you for your patience. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Hey, Kevin, how's it going?
Not bad, and you?
Yeah, pretty good. So I just had a few points. One from one of your earlier callers about the use of marijuana in children and how it's correlating or related to depression and anxiety. I would say that it's that you should probably mention that the use of social media and cell phones and stuff like that is probably way more related and way more of causation to the depression and anxiety amongst children than marijuana and alcohol and other illicit drugs. That they have way more access to stuff like that than they do, alcohol.
It's an interesting take when you're talking about social media, though. How can you tell these children, these digital natives, that social media is bad? I was talking to a gentleman last night, a businessman. He goes, I don't do social media. I don't believe in it. I had to do it when I was a professional baseball player. Now I don't have to do it at all. And I found it very refreshing. Of course, social media today, Zach, is more like our currency.
Yeah, I mean, it's everywhere. And so that's why I think it's not fair to say that this anxiety is due to children using drugs and alcohol and not mention that it's probably social media too. I think it's way more accessible than drugs and alcohol. And it's kind of scary for me to hear a doctor, I think that's what he said he was, right?
Yes.
To say that, it's drugs and alcohol rather than a plethora of other options that it could be. It just seems negligible. One of the other points I wanted to bring up too was what do you have to say about all the money that's being taken over state lines on the purchase of recreational marijuana in Oregon, and then that product's being brought back, but that money's never going to come back?
My opinion, Zach, on it is doesn't bother me on that.
Really?
Because every time states have shown, and you can go to Drug Free Idaho or keepidaho.org or do a Google search, that when you legalize marijuana, the increase in traffic accidents, the increase in counseling, the increase in the strain on the social services happens. So I believe that's a wash. That is my opinion.
On the social services, what do you mean by that?
Counseling, drug addiction, all sorts of things that are on the rise, because when you introduce legalized marijuana, and by the way, in Oregon, they've taxed it so much, the black market for pot is booming because nobody wants to pay the exorbitant rates for the legal stuff.
They've also funded I think all of their public schools since the legalization, and that's one thing that we struggle with here is funding for our public education. I think there are benefits to it. Like, Reagan's not alive anymore. This isn't the devil's lettuce. I think we need to probably change our perspective on it just a little bit.
Well, see, that's what I love. You and I can agree to disagree on this, and I can hear your side of it. You can hear my side of it.
Yeah. I just thought that I just wanted to, get a couple thoughts out there.
Zach, I appreciate it. Hopefully I'm right and you're wrong, but the conventional wisdom would probably favor you, sir.
I guess we'll see.
Zach, you have a great day.
You too.
All right. There we have it. 580-5436. 580-KIDO. Ryan in Meridian. Good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning, Kevin. How are you this morning?
Not bad. You?
Living the dream.
All right, brother.
Hey, brother. Hey, the typical dope smokers calling in this morning, they won't listen to any facts at all. Marijuana is a devastating drug. It has short-term and long-term side effects. Look at the research. They won't look at it. And states have legalized marijuana. That one caller said that nobody's ever died from marijuana. Not true. Traffic fatalities are way up in all the states that have legalized it. Emergency room visits are way up from overdoses. And, of course, like you said, social services, drug treatment. Marijuana does lead to other drugs because, for the most part, people smoke it to get high. It's not about pain relief or anxiety relief. That's just an excuse to smoke it. So just getting the facts out there, there, brother. People need to hear what the truth is.
Well, now, what would you say to Zach, who believes that, very articulate young man, Ryan, who says, look, what about the money?
Well, I'd say to them, if we could legalize drugs and keep it out of the hands of kids and not have parents stoned all the time, not being able to take care of their kids and not abuse them, then that'd be great. I guess you call that a utopia, but that's not what happens. When you do legalize drugs, it's going to get into the hands of kids and destroy their lives. And then, of course, if you're a parent and using drugs, it's going to affect the way that you raise your children, and you're going to end up neglecting them. So I don't think marijuana should be legalized in any state. So our money shouldn't be going over the border.
Maybe we should build the wall.
Yeah. Matter of fact, talking to dope smokers is like talking to liberals. You hit them with facts and they change the subject.
Ryan, you have a great day. Thank you, sir.
You too, Kevin. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. 580-5436, 580-KIDO. Patriot Ray joins us. Then we'll go to Max. Patriot Ray, good morning. You're on KIDO Talk Radio with Kevin Miller.
Oh, good morning. The last caller took my thunder because I recall hearing recently where a gentleman in Idaho was driving impaired by pot and killed he and the passenger in his car because he veered into oncoming traffic. So saying somebody hasn't been killed by smoking marijuana, that's a falsehood, and that's being neglectful on his part, thinking that's true. So we need to stand up for what's right. A sin is a sin. Whether you're going to pay for it here, you're going to pay for it in the hereafter. At least that's my belief. But I believe that people need to be controlling of themselves and quit trying to get something out of something that isn't real. I mean, you're smoking pot, you get that high, they think that they're just oblivious to everything. I've had friends when I was in Southern California who smoked pot to start with and then went into harder stuff, and it just became a death sentence for them. So you got to be careful of what's going on in the world today. So I'm not in favor of marijuana smoking being allowed. I am in favor of medical marijuana because I know people have found relief from that, but they can do that without having the marijuana itself, but using the oils. So I'm on a true side on that part, but the Lord put things on earth for us to help ourselves. So marijuana is an herb too, so we should look at the things that would be good beneficial, not the things just to get a high and have a fun time with, because that's not what it's about. Well, thanks for letting me have my little speak this morning. I appreciate it. I appreciate the show and all those who've called in, even the ones who have been kind of ornery with you. We shouldn't be that way. We should be able to converse coherently, and we should be able to converse politely with each other and not go crazy over things just because we don't believe the same way. So I do appreciate the one caller that really talked that way, and he's a pot smoker, so that's okay. Thank you, Kevin. Have a wonderful day, and God bless.
God bless you, Patriot Ray. Max in Garden City, thank you for your patience. You're on KIDO Talk Radio.
Good morning. I was listening to Bruce earlier, very well spoken and incredibly ill-informed. Now, some of the callers this morning have mentioned that marijuana does kill with what I call secondhand injury. In other words, you're driving, you're working heavy machinery while you're high. But there is a marijuana toxicity. Now, I'm a trauma physician. That means I'm an emergency room doctor. And I have seen countless cases where marijuana, in conjunction with other drugs, we call this a polydrug effect, drugs such as alcohol. Alcohol is perfectly legal. When you perfectly legalize marijuana, and of course the two go hand in hand, yes, there have been deaths, a number of deaths, and those deaths are rising. And as far as Zach, I like Zach. He was well-spoken, wasn't he? Zach was talking about how we shouldn't have federal overreach, reaching into the states. And now, he's got a strong point there. But maybe, just maybe, marijuana is such a serious threat, like the Japanese bombing Pearl Harbor. When that happened, We didn't wait for Hawaii to say, okay, we're going to enter the war. California, no, we did it federally. I think we need to take a more serious action. Because remember, marijuana, yeah, you can make coats and jackets out of it, but there is not one peer-reviewed study, not one, showing that medical marijuana has significant medical benefit. Significant meaning that it could supplant some of the very, very safe drugs that have been out there for decades. Just a thought.
Max, we appreciate you listening to KIDO Talk Radio. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio.
Sent out a release last night saying that your tweet from a couple of days ago has led to direct threats on her life. Any second thoughts about that tweet and the way it was produced and put together?
No, not at all. Look, she's been very disrespectful to this country. She's been very disrespectful, frankly, to Israel. She is somebody that doesn't really understand, I think, life, real life, what it's all about. It's unfortunate. She's got a way about her that's very, very bad, I think, for our country. I think she's extremely unpatriotic and extremely disrespectful to our country.
One final question. Thursday, it sounds like the redacted Mueller report might come out. Do you have any concerns about what that might show?
Well, it showed that it's a total phony. I don't have to say that. I mean, you just take a look at the conclusion. I heard it's going to come out on Thursday. That's good. And there can't be anything there because there was no crime. There was no anything. The crime was committed by the other side. This crime was all made up. It was all a fabrication.
There we have it. The president of the United States in Minnesota recently talking about Representative Omar, saying she's got a way about her that's very, very bad for our country. Could you imagine any other Republican, Paul Ryan, President Bush, having enough guts to call somebody out for being anti-Israel and for saying somebody did something to someone, right? Donald Trump standing up for America, Donald Trump doing the right thing. By the way, good morning. You're listening to Kevin Miller, KIDO Talk Radio, KIDOTalkRadio.com. Don't forget our app. We would love for you to do it. No need to go through a third party. Just go to the App Store or Google Play and type in KIDO Talk Radio, and you get the app, and you're good to go. Traffic and weather together. And Kevin Miller in the morning, KIDO Talk Radio, and you're home for Fox News on the radio. Some other things going on. Some interesting news if you're hanging out at the water cooler. By the way, we will continue to take your calls concerning this 420 holiday coming up. How many people are very excited about this? And you hear the pro-pot smokers saying that now that Ontario has fallen, that all of a sudden we will, in fact, be the gateway to the state of Idaho. Now, this is something kind of strange. There aren't many of these left anymore. All female or all male colleges. Now, I'm going to assume here, in an attempt to avoid a lawsuit, the all-male Morehouse College will allow a transgender man, transgender men to attend college. Beginning in the fall of 2020, people who identify as men, regardless of their biological gender, will be considered for admission. Now, this all gets very confusing. My own personal opinion about this is God created us to be men, to be women. And you have people, Meghan Markle, the queen or the prince or the princess over there going to marry Prince Harry, saying that she's going to let her kid determine the gender? Could you imagine saying that to your parents or your grandparents? The ones that got us through the Depression, World War II, World War I, the Civil War. I'm sorry. I don't identify a certain way. So, men transitioning from men to women will not be eligible for admission. Who knows whether Wellesley or any of these other hoity-toity female-only institutions will allow that to happen. However, if you're a woman and you're transitioning to a man, you might have an opportunity to go to this Morehouse College. If men are currently enrolled at Morehouse College and are in the process of transitioning to a woman, they cannot continue to attend. Every time I hear this, I hear that. It reminds me of that Shania Twain song. You know what I'm talking about? Man, I feel like a woman. And maybe that's insensitive, so let me apologize because we don't have insensitivity on the radio anymore because of the thought police. But I just think of that song as Man, I Feel Like a Woman. Anyway, before coming to this decision, a task force was created and spent 15 months working on this. So never mind, we're going to work on how we can make graduates of Morehouse College more proficient, more hireable. We're going to reduce student debt. We're going to spend 15 months on, man, I feel like a woman. Hope that made you smile. Kevin, got to laugh, right? Good morning.